This is his bio of Sir George Martin. You know, I would like to read it to you. Obviously, I can't. It would be ridiculous. But the man has just done so many things. 48 years, he's really changed the music business. He's been a leader, an innovator, an inventor. 30 #1 singles and 60 #1 albums, 700 recordings. He now has, he's been decorated by the Queen. He has his own orchestra. He did wonderful, fabulous shows and albums and the Beatles and comedy Beyond the Fringe and Grammys, and he invented 8-track recording. He is Sir George Martin. Please welcome him. So what do you take, George? You're 72 and you look, what do you do? What's your secret?
You're too kind.
No,
really.
I'm not. I'm being very honest. What do you do? Are you a health kind of person? Do you work out a lot?
Absolutely not.
You don't do a damn thing?
I'm thinking of getting a bicycle, maybe. You know, because I am actually getting fat in my old age, because I've always been fairly slim.
So it's genetics, good genes.
Well, I still play tennis, but I play Cinderella tennis.
What's that?
Well, you don't quite make it to the ball.
That's beautiful. You should know of this man that I find it interesting. Was the elder of 2 children born to working class parents. Dad was a carpenter. You had an early love for music, and at 15 formed his own dance band called the Four Tune Tellers.
Ouch.
Well, but what kind of dance music? What was the music of that time?
Mixture of jazz and pop music. It was standards like Jerome Kern,
Right.
George Gershwin, that kind of stuff.
So you loved music. It was.
Yeah. And the band used to play for dances. People used to dance, you know, together.
Yes. Yeah. Like holding each other, you mean?
Like holding each other.
Yeah, right.
And I found I was able to earn money doing this. It was great fun, and I enjoyed it too.
But there was a lot more than that, because after the war, in which you were a pilot.
I was actually an observer with the Fifth Beatle.
Observer?
Yeah, in the Fifth Beatle. I was flying. We started off on biplanes and finished up on what are called barracudas, which were torpedo dive bombers. But I didn't actually see any action. I was too young for that. I joined when I was 17,
God.
and the war ended before I really got into it. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, amen. But then you went on to study musical composition. You classical composition at London's Guildhall.
Yeah, that's right.
Playing the oboe as a professional. So you actually, I mean, there's real talent here. You could have been a professional musician.
Well, I was a professional musician.
No, but I mean forever. I meant forever. You could have just followed that track.
Yeah, I guess I could, but I think I realized, I took up music because I couldn't do anything else. I mean, apart from flying and so on. And I was advised very strongly by a professor of music to study. And he actually got me an audition with the head of the school. And I studied composition, conducting. I took up the oboe because it was a way of earning money. You know, you couldn't earn money writing then. But I realized also that I didn't have the temperament to be a performer. I got very nervous, you know.
How nervous were you?
Oh, so nervous that I was in part of the Sadler's Wells Orchestra, and when a solo came around, I would be so nervous that I would start sweating and my fingers would start slipping on the keys. Oh, God. You know, really.
What happened to the oboe player in the third row?
Well, it was okay. I mean, I managed to get through, but...
Tell me something. Many of the performers I interview today in music are not classically trained. Many of them cannot or are completely unable to read music, but they make the most beautiful sounds. And
yeah. Music comes from within, and the ability to read or write music is merely a communicating factor. It's like being able to read or write words. The fact you can be very musical without being able to read or write music.
You've worked with some of the greatest musicians in so many fields. I mean, obviously the Beatles, but you did Stan Getz, John Dankworth and Cleo Lane, and so many greats. What is it about a musician or somebody who records? What is that thing they have, George? How do you understand it?
It's a wonderful mystery, Dini. It's, you know, I've been in music all my life, and I still don't know what the hell it is. But it is something that moves people so immensely. And it comes from here. It's part of humanity. You know, Man has been making music for 80,000 years. They've recently discovered fragments of a bone that have been drilled out to form an early pipe.
Oh.
And it's proven that it was Neanderthal times. So man could actually make music before he could speak. It's so primeval with us. It's wonderful, I think. And certainly if you see a great performer, I've worked with people like Ella Fitzgerald.
Yes.
And it's just wonderful to see this flow of emotion coming out and making beautiful sounds and thrilling everybody.
You know, a lot of musicians, when I speak to them and talk to them, when I ask them about their creativity, I get the most amazing answers, George. Some tell me that it's like a radio they turn on and they hear it. Some say it's like they're getting a fax from the universe, that it just comes that easily to some people, this creative thing.
It is wonderful. And, you know, I've often spoken, Paul, for example, Paul McCartney, he still doesn't know where yesterday came from. He actually, he woke up one morning with this in his head.
It was there when he woke up?
He woke up and he went to the piano and he started playing it. And he came to me and he said, "Have you heard this before?" I said, "No, it's pretty good." He said, "You sure you haven't?" He said, "Maybe somebody else's," because he was worried that he'd heard it and pinched it from somebody.
Because it came so easy?
It was just there, he just heard it and he knew it was there. He was looking for a lyric, but the music was there. And I quizzed him about this when we were doing a television program. I said, I remember you telling me about yesterday. When you heard that, when you thought of that and you went to the piano, could you in your mind, in your dream, could you remember all the chords and everything? He said, "Yes, I think so." So he doesn't know where it comes from. And when I've tried to tell him, you should, study music a bit more. I've tried to get him into classical music, which he's doing. But he's frightened that it might inhibit that magical something. He doesn't want to lose that.
Whatever it is that we can't, but they know they have it, and some have it, whatever. Well, creative genius, maybe we're talking, but we are talking for certain with Mr. George Martin about things we aren't sure what they are. We'll continue with that conversation in just a moment. We're back with Sir George Martin. Last year, Sir George produced the largest selling single of all time. He worked with Elton John on Candle in the Wind. That must have been extraordinary.
It was extraordinary. I mean, Princess Diana was killed during the night of the Saturday. I was abroad and I came back on Monday. And Tuesday I spoke to Elton. He said, "I've been asked to sing at Westminster Abbey for the funeral of Princess Diana. And I think it'd be a good idea to make a record of it and help her charities. Would you produce it for me?" So it was one of these fortuitous things. I mean, it's no credit to me. I just went along there and did it. And we agreed to meet immediately after the ceremony of the funeral. An hour after he came out of the Westminster Abbey, we met in the studio. And he said, "How do you want to handle it?" I'd been watching him on television. I said, "Do exactly what you did in the Abbey, and I'll take it from there." He said, "Don't you want to lay down a drum track so you can be..." I said, "No. You sit and play at the piano and sing." And he did that. And within 3 takes, he got it almost right, And I said, "Come and listen to this. It just needs a couple of bits of patching with the voice. We'll double track a couple of bits." And by 3 o'clock, he'd got his bit done. I said, "Right, now I'm going to do a little score, and I'll write for some string quartet and a couple of woodwind, add it on top, and we'll mix it, and then I'll send it back." And so I'd booked some musicians, got them in about 6:30 or 7 that night, quickly wrote a score to accompany his voice. We recorded them, we mixed it, and it was on its way to the factory at 10:30 that night. And it was available for sale within 2 days.
That's extraordinary.
And it sold 34 million.
Yeah.
And amazing, really.
People, don't understand a lot about the music business, and I asked the Rankins what a producer meant to them. But a producer, and you're I was going to say a different kind of producer. Your musical knowledge. I mean, you wrote the score. I'll hire a couple of musicians.
Well, I've never worked as fast as I did then. I had to work very, very fast indeed. And I don't like doing that. I like taking my time over writing an orchestration. But, you have to do the job when it comes.
Define your job as you see it when you worked with someone like Elton John, or how do you see your job? You are...
I'm a shaper of people's talents, really. I put the frame around their their genius. You know, that's what it is. Elton is a great talent, enormous talent. And all I do is add the trimmings and wrap it up so that people can take it. Simple.
You worked with so many extraordinary people, and you were obviously so much time with the Beatles. I imagine that the loss of John Lennon is still with you?
It was a terrible time, that. The Beatles didn't exist anymore, but I'd remained friends with each and every one of them. And I was actually working with Paul when it happened. We were working on Tug of War together. And we were due to go into the studio in that day. I was in my country house, he was in his. We were going to drive into London and meet in the studio. And I woke up that morning by a phone call by my bed at 6 o'clock. And I was suddenly on the air in America from my sleep.
Oh, no.
When a voice said to me, "Is that George Martin?" I said, "Yes." "Who the hell's ringing me at 6 o'clock? What do you feel about the assassination of John Lennon?"
That's how you...
That was how I woke up.
Oh, my God.
And, you know, it was a most awful moment in all my life. And when I got rid of the man and put the phone down, I was on the air, by the way, when that happened. I rang Paul, and I knew that he would be awake too. And I said, "You know, surely you don't want to come in today." He said, "I couldn't stay here. Do you mind if we come in?" So we went into the studio, and we met up about 10 or 11 in the morning. We didn't do any work, we just talked all day, and we talked about him and us, and it kind of eased the pain. And we got through it, and he went home, and we gradually got over it. And that was my memory of John dying.
You work in a business that does such extraordinary things to people. It takes people and gives them not only hundreds of millions of dollars, but it gives them this fame where they can't go anywhere without being mobbed and followed. It takes people and gives them everything the world could give you a dream of one, and it must change some so horribly. When you look at the music business in all its context, what do you think of it all, George?
Well, I think that heavy fame, like you're talking about,
yeah,
is very difficult to deal with. And if you have the misfortune to be in that position...
The misfortune?
Misfortune, absolutely. Don't ever be mega famous. It's the last thing you want. Really is.
Because it's...
Because it's so confining. You can't do anything. And Paul is mega famous. He deals with it by trying to be very ordinary.
Oh my God, the thing about his wife and her death, it was just, they won't leave these people alone. They just suck everything they can.
Well, it goes with the territory.
Goes with the confining.
And I think the thing is, you've got to be very strong, and it does require a great deal of inner strength to cope with that. But, so many people are very famous, and they still are very good, nice people. Mm-hmm. Now, the people on this album of mine...
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of famous, just before we go to commercial, because we're coming back with George, just let me read you who's on this album. Robin Williams and Bobby McFerrin, Goldie Hawn, Jeff Beck, Celine Dion, Vanessa Mae, Jim Carrey, John Williams, Bill Connolly, George Martin, Phil Collins, George Martin, and Sean Connery doing Beatles tunes. And we'll be back with this small cast of talent. So, thank you. We're back with Sir George Martin, and last year this is the CD he wanted to do with all those famous people on it. What happened? You woke up one morning and went...
Well, I thought, well, if I'm going to make a final album, and you've got to do it one day.
This is it for sure.
This really is. I'm not going to go in the studio again with another album. This is my last one. Elton John's was my last single. This is my last album. And the reason is that I'm a dinosaur. I'm too old to make any more records. And...
No, wait a minute. Yeah. Do you actually, you don't believe that? You just want to do you believe that?
I think I've done enough, put it that way. And also, I'm not as good as I used to be. I used to be quite good, but I know that I'm not as good. So I don't want to go on doing something I don't feel really top of.
Okay.
So, quit. And if you're going to quit, enjoy yourself. So this is an album which I really enjoyed doing. It was great fun to do, working with such lovely people, And they really are. You talked about fame and being constrictive. But if you know someone like Robin Williams,
right?
He, when you have dinner with him and if he's off screen, he's not a riot of fun. He's just a very nice, warm person you can really relate to. He's a great character, not at all conceited, and a beautiful human being.
Do you find of real talent, when you meet real talent, like the Ella Fitzgeralds of the world, the Robin Williams, the real talent, they are not conceited, most of them are just very talented people?
Mostly I would say that's true. You do get occasional people who are very arrogant and very conceited, who are also very, very talented.
Yeah, people, here's how I define them, and this is what I don't like. People who believe because they are rich, famous, or talented that their time on this planet Earth is worth just a little bit more than everybody else's. Or in some cases, a great deal more.
That's right.
Yeah, God, they're a pain.
I know what you mean.
Was there any big surprises here for you in the musical talent? I mean, these people, whoever thought Goldie Hawn, Jim Carrey, Sean Connery, or Robin Williams would sing?
Jim does a great job. He's got a very good voice. And Goldie Hawn, I rang up Goldie Hawn and I said, are you up for this? She said, how do you know I can sing? I said, because I remember you in the Rowan and Martin Laugh-In. I remember you singing then. She said, okay, what do you want me to do? So I met up with her in Los Angeles. She'd cycled all the way from her home and she came into the restaurant with a crash helmet, which she took off and flung out her hair and giggled. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, how about A Hard Day's Night? And she said to me, now I know you're crazy. I said, no, it's not like John Lennon, not like Paul McCartney. Think of something like Peggy Lee or even Marilyn Monroe, but you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the way we do it, a kind of sultry, laid back, very sexy Hard Day's Night.
If you were to have a dinner party at your home and you were going to invite 6 of your closest and best friends, people you really loved, who would be at your table, Sir George?
Nobody you know.
Nobody that I know. They're not the famous.
No, because, we do have famous people from time to time, but generally speaking, first of all, they don't live near.
Okay.
But apart from that, I've got so many friends that who are outside the business, and I don't talk about business when I'm at home. We just talk about silly things like gardening and snooker and boats and tennis and all those silly things. Nothing to do with music.
These are the things you'll do now that you're retiring. You're a gardener. You're a snooker player.
Snooker playing.
You any good at it?
I love doing all those things, but I'm not going to really be retiring.
Oh, what are we really going to be doing?
Well, I still do concerts. I did a concert tour of Australia.
The Sir
with
George
Symphony
Martin,
Orchestra.
Yeah, the Sir George Martin Symphony Orchestra.
Well, in fact, I'm planning a series of concerts here.
Here in Toronto? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe next spring.
Did you know I could sing? Have I mentioned that?
I should look forward to that.
Yeah. This is the album. It's in stores. Would you promise when you come back, if you have a moment, that you'd come and visit us again in the spring?
I'd love to do that.
Please, this is Sir George Martin, and this is the album, In My Life, available in stores now. And perhaps in the spring we'll meet again. We'll be right back.
Thank you.